All right, we're on our last section, Chapter 8, Section 7, and it's Learning Plan 412, Complex Numbers. Complex numbers is where we get into those spaces where we have the square root of a negative number. We're going to have different kinds of complex numbers, add them, multiply, divide, and find the powers. So let's talk about simplifying them. We're going to imagine, that's where the letter I comes from, imagine a number so that I is the square root of negative 1, or in other words, I squared is negative 1. If that is true, then we can simplify this as saying the negative sign on the inside is the same as I on the outside. Notice that this is the square root symbol stops before the I. Why is that not? The square root symbol stops before the I. And then there's a square root with the I underneath the radical. We usually, because we don't want to confuse that, we usually put the I out in front. So this would be I square root 25, but the square root of 25 is 5, so we would say 5I. This is negative I square root 81. This negative sign comes here. This negative sign becomes I on the outside, which is negative 9I. This is I root 7. This is I root 44, but 44 divided by 44 is 2. You got a pair of 2's on the outside, so it's 2I root 11. Okay, you do these, and when you're ready, I'll show you how I did them. All right, for letter A, that is I square root 49, which is 7I. For B, it's negative I root 121, which is negative 11I. C, it's I root 3. And D, it's I root 32, but 32 divided by 2 is 16, divided by 4 is 4. So that's 4I on the outside and 2 on the inside. Okay, what's the correct answer here? Remember that the I takes care of the negative sign on the inside, but the square root of 16 is 4, so the answer is 4I. Now, what's interesting is, if we multiply these, we get I root 16 times I root 25. So this is 4I times 5I, which is 20I squared. But I squared is negative 1, so this is negative 20. So I squared is negative 1. Just in case you forgot that, let's go back and look at it. I squared is negative 1. Okay, so this one would be I root 6 times I root 5, which is I squared root 30, or negative root 30. I squared is negative 1. Okay, you do these. So this is I square root of 4 is 2. So that's 2I. I square root 16 is 4I. 2I times 4I is 8I squared. I squared is negative 1, so that's negative 8. For B, it's I root 5 times I root 11, which is I squared root 55, but I squared is negative 1, so that's negative square root 55. Notice This negative sign is on the outside because the I is on the outside. Let's do C. I'm going to change colors again here. Negative, I root 3 times I root 12 is I squared root 36, but I squared is negative. Root 36 is 6. And then the last one, root 13 times I root 2 is I root 26. Notice there's no negative sign here, so that doesn't have an I in it. Next one, you do this one. Okay, the first one is I root 81 times I root 9. I times I is I squared. Root of 81 is 9. Root of 9 is 3, so that's 27. And then I squared is negative 1. So it's negative 27. Now, dividing works the same way. This is I root 80 over I root 5. The i's cancel. And so you have 80 divided by 5, which is 16. Square root of 16 is 4. This is I root 40 over root 10. 40 divided by 10 is 4, so it's I root 4, which is 2I. You do these two. Okay, A is I root 72 over I root 8. 72 divided by 8 is 9. The i's cancel. Square root of 9 is 3. I'm going to change colors here. For B, it's I root 48 over the root of 3. 48 divided by 3 is 16, so it's I root 16, which is 4I. Next one. This is I root 28 over I root 4. 28 divided by 4 is 7. So it's the i's cancel, so it's the square root of 7. Okay, so complex numbers are going to have different subsets. If A and B are real numbers, then if we have the A part, which is the real part of the number, and the imaginary part, that makes a complex number. So the set of real numbers is a subset of the set of complex numbers. So if you have real numbers here and you have imaginary numbers here, remember, no imaginary number is real and no real number is imaginary. Those two together make the complex numbers, and you can't combine them because they are in separate kingdoms. So if you just have the imaginary part, it's a pure imaginary, and if you have both parts, it's a complex number. Okay, so we've got the complex numbers are made up of the non-real and the real. And the reals are made up of the irrationals and the rationals are made up of integers and non-integers. All right, so let's add them, just like combining like terms. Negative 1 plus 9 is 8. Negative 8 minus 3 more is negative 11i. Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2, minus 7 is negative 9. 2 minus 3 is negative 1, minus 5 more is negative 6. You do these two. Negative 3 and 4 is 1. 2 and 7 makes 9i. 5 minus 3 is 2, plus 6 is 8. Negative 1 plus 3 is positive 2, minus 4 is negative 2. What do you get here? 5 and 6 makes 11. Negative 2 plus 9 is positive 7i. Okay, subtraction works the same way. Negative 1 minus 4 is negative 5. 2 minus 1 is I. Notice this negative sign has to be carried into there. So this is 8 minus 12 is negative 4. Negative 5 minus negative 3, which is the same as plus 3, is negative 2i. Negative 10 minus negative 10, which is the same as plus 10, is 0. And then 6 minus 10 is negative 4i, or just negative 4i. You do these three. 7 minus 3 is 4. 10 minus 5 is 5i. 5 minus 9 is negative 4. Negative 2 minus negative 7, which is the same as plus 7, is positive 5i. Negative 1 minus negative 1, which is the same as plus 1, is 0. 12 minus negative 1 is the same as plus 1. So that's 13i, which is just 13i. 5 minus negative is the same as plus, so that's 14. 3 minus 1 is 2. 14 plus 2i. Okay, multiplying, we can use the FOIL method, or if it's just one term, we do it by both of those. So that's 24i plus 18i squared. But I squared is negative 1, so that's 24i minus 18. And we always write the negative, or the real part first, so it's negative 18 plus 24i. When you multiply, you always get no more than two terms. Now, you can also use the FOIL method. First, outside, inside, last. Firsts are 12. Outsides is 24i. Insides is negative 8i. Lasts is negative 16i squared. But I squared is negative 1. Negative negative is positive. So you have 16 and 12 makes 28. 24 minus 8 is 16i. Okay, another one. Firsts, 9. Outsides, this is 12i. Insides, this is 6i. 12 and 6 makes 18i. Lasts is 8i squared, but I squared is negative 1, so it's minus 8. 9 minus 8 is 1 plus 18i. Bring down the 18. Okay, you try these two. This is 24i minus 40i squared, but I squared is negative 1, so that's positive 40 plus 24i. Firsts, 28. Outsides, 21i. Insides, negative 8i. Lasts, negative 6i squared. But negative 6i squared is the same as plus 6. 28 and 6 makes 34. 21 minus 8 is 13i. So, if you have a product of difference, you get a squared plus b squared. Remember before we said you could only factor a squared minus b squared? Well, now we're going to be able to factor a squared plus b squared, into a plus bi, a minus bi. When we get to factoring, that is. So, let's look at this one. Find the quotient. When you divide complex numbers, you have to multiply by the conjugate. So 3 plus I, 3 plus I. The bottom becomes 9 minus I squared. This is negative 1 minus negative 1 is plus 1. So the denominator is 10. The numerator, 3 times 23 is 69. Plus 23i minus 3i minus I squared. But I squared is negative 1. Negative negative 1 makes it 70 when you add it to 69. Plus 20i over 10, which is 7 plus 2i, because you can divide each of those. Okay. In this case, you just multiply top and bottom by I, and you get 5i minus I squared over I squared, but I squared is negative 1, so it's 5i minus negative 1 over negative 1. This is the same as plus 1. So, and then we've got this negative sign. Let's put the negative out front. We'll have negative 1 plus 5i, or just negative 1 minus 5i. Remember, you always put the real part first. Okay, you do these two. Oh, I should show you. Do you see the relationship between this and this? Notice the negative goes to the front. Change this sign to negative. Okay. First one. You ready? First one is 4 plus 2i over 1 plus 3i. Multiply top and bottom by 1 minus 3i. And we get 1 minus 9i squared, which is the same as negative 9, so that's 10. 4 is the first. Outsides minus 12i. Insides plus 2i. Lasts is minus 6i squared. But minus 6i squared is the same as plus 6. 4 and 6 makes 10 minus 10i. And so we just divide everything by 10, and you get 1 minus I. For the second one, I'm going to change colors here. 5 minus 4i over I. Multiply top and bottom by I. And you get 5i minus 4i squared over I squared. That's the same as 4 plus 5i over negative 1, which is, put the negative sign out front, so you have negative 4 minus 5i. Okay, how about this one? Multiply top and bottom by 9 plus 3i, and you get 81 minus 9i squared, which is the same as plus 9, makes that 90. 9 times 6 is 54. Outsides is plus 18i. Insides is plus another 18i. Lasts is 6i squared. 54 and 6, that's a minus. Oh no, that's a plus. 54 minus 6. 54 minus 6 is 48. Plus 36i. What can we divide everything by? 6. We get 8 plus 6i over 15. Ooh, that's not one of the choices. Did I make a mistake? 54. 9 minus 9i squared, which is 9 plus 9, which is 181 plus 9, which is 90. 54, this is I squared, so that's minus 6. 54 minus 6 is 48, plus 36i. Oh, I see. They just simplified this even more. 8/15 plus 6/15. I divide both of these by 3. You get 5 and 2. All right, next one. Powers of I. This is kind of easy if you think about it. I squared is negative 1. I cubed is negative I. I to the 4th is positive 1. I to the 5th is I. So you see, every time you add a power, the powers that are I to the 5th, I to the 9th, and so on, all equal I. I squared, I to the 6th, I to the 10th, they all equal negative 1. I to the 3rd, I to the 4 more than that, which is 7th, I to the 4 more than that, which is 11th, they all equal negative I. And I to the 4th, I to the 8th, I to the 12th, they all equal 1. So, I to the 28th, all we have to do is that divisible by 4? Yes, it is. So that's going to be 1. If you divide this by 4, you get, we're just talking about the remainder part, I to the 3rd, and I to the 3rd is negative I. This you can divide by 4, and the remainder is negative 1. I to the negative 1 is 1 over I. 22 divisible by 4 is just the remainder is 2, so it's 1 over I squared, which is 1 over negative 1, which is negative 1. Try these 4. Okay, I to the 16th, there is no remainder when you divide, so that's going to just be 1. B, there's a remainder of 1, so that's just going to be I. C, there is a remainder of 2, so it's I squared on the bottom, but I squared is negative 1, so this is negative 1. D, there's a remainder of 1, so it's 1 over I. How about this one? Divide by 4, you get remainder 1, so your answer is I.